And the record number of heat-related deaths in Maricopa County was set last year when 425 people died. Now, as of this week, the county has confirmed just 25 heat deaths, but there are still 249 under investigation. These refrigerated storage units near the medical examiner's office downtown show us the county is preparing for the death toll to rise dramatically. Dr. Johnson says the 10 coolers that arrived this week have added an additional 50% more storage capacity. They are not being used yet, but Johnson said that could change as early as next week. And during my interview with him, Johnson described how the possible heat-related deaths have spiked since the beginning of this month.
So like the first 9 days of July, before we got into this excessive run, it was something around 13 or 14% of the bodies we would admit are potentially heat related. It's now over 50%, almost 60%, and some days it's 3/4 of the bodies we're admitting.
Wow. In most cases, there are contributing factors to heat-related deaths, such as pre-existing medical conditions or substance abuse. Last year, Johnston said that 2/3 of the people who died from extreme heat were over the age of 50. And I also asked the chairman of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors if there were any plans to expand the medical examiner's office to accommodate future heat waves, and I did not get a very clear response from him. In the newsroom, Dennis Welch, Arizona's Family.